According to cryptozoology, the Mothman inhabits West Virginia, reportedly first terrorizing the Point Pleasant area on November 12, 1966. Eventually, a book called The Mothman Prophecies was written by John Keel and chronicled his investigation into the numerous sightings of a strange, bird-like creature. The creature was dubbed the Mothman due to its appearance and the popularity of the television series Batman. His investigations involved interviewing witnesses who claimed to have personally encountered the creature. According to Keel, there were at least 100 witnesses between November 1966 and November 1967. They described the creature as between 5 to 7 feet tall, with human legs and bat-like wings. Some described it sound like a woman's scream. In addition to the eyewitness accounts of Mothman sightings, Keel also collected reports of phone and television disruption, poltergeist, and UFO sightings, all of which he believed to be connected. But the Mothman has not only been a secluded incident, as many believe it has been seen in other places, most of the time right before disasters occur. According to archaeologist Robert Maxwell, he heard all kinds of legends related to a being very similar to the Mothman, but the survivors of Chernobyl know it as the Blackbird of Chernobyl. According to the legend, at least 5 employees of the Chernobyl nuclear power plant saw this creature, which they described as a huge and deformed bird which had no head. In addition to having large wings, it seemed to have 2 large red eyes on its chest, an extremely similar description to the West Virginia creature. It is said that those who managed to see the huge creature began to experience PTSD and night terrors. In the days following these sightings, supernatural events began to occur within the nuclear plant facilities. Shadows were seen. Things were heard that were not there. The objects moved on their own, and a huge creature with red eyes on its chest was seen more than once, occasionally flying over the nuclear plant. The reports of these events were never taken seriously, since they were unsubstantiated, but it all culminated on April 26, 1986, when the Blackbird of Chernobyl was seen flying over the nuclear plant for the last time. That same day, the plant exploded, and the rest is history. The 2011 tsunami in Japan. In March of 2011, tragedy struck Japan. A massive magnitude 9 earthquake tore through the ocean, generating a devastating tsunami that battered the coastal Tohoku region of the country's eastern coast. As if the potent quake and resultant wave weren't bad enough, the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant was so badly damaged that it went into a nuclear meltdown that went down to be one of the worst in history, poisoning the environment, its animals, its people, and causing lasting ripples that reverberate to this day. In the days leading up to the deadly Japanese earthquake and massive tsunami, a witness named Marcus Puels claims to have made a sighting of what he describes as the Mothman in the area. Puels said that he had been in Japan on a business trip in February of 2011 and had decided to stay with a friend who had long lived in Japan teaching English in the rural town of Okuma in the Fukushima region. One day, the 2 friends went out to look around the town, days before the disaster. And in the evening, they went to the seaside, walking along a trail that meandered near the Daiichi Fukushima nuclear power plant. As they walked along, Puels claims that he heard a sudden whoosh, which he at first took to be the sounds of the nearby ocean waves crashing against the rocks, but his mind was changed when the sound repeated and then was followed by an ear-piercing shriek, the likes of which he had never heard before. His friend heard it as well, as did a couple who had been out on the same path for a romantic evening stroll. Puels would say, "We heard it again, the whooshing noise, followed by an ear-pitching screech that shook me down to the bone and made the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. We looked around for the cause of the noise when we heard the sound again. The best way I can describe it is a city bus's brakes when they need service and repaired, loud and ear-splitting. We both continued to look around when my friend's attention was drawn toward the plant by another nearby couple. A younger couple, out for a walk were staring toward the plant, arms outstretched, and the obvious fear in their voices showing itself. Peels then looked out towards the power plant in the distance and thought he could make out a large, shadowy figure silhouetted by the plant's lights and the moonlight, which appeared to be sitting perched atop one of the buildings. As he stared at it, trying to figure out who or what it could be, the figure suddenly unfurled what looked like to be a massive set of black wings and took to the sky, where it circled the plant several times. Peels continues. The creature then took flight and circled the plant at least 4 to 5 times. Some circuits he took at a fast pace, some he seemed to slow down. All the while, he kept his attention on the row of square-shaped buildings that I later found out to house the nuclear reactors. The creature then came toward us, flying at least 25 to 30 feet off the ground. The younger couple who had noticed the creature first were now screaming and cowering, the man shielding the woman while shielding his head with a jacket. My friend and I looked in awe as this creature flew over us. That's when I noticed the 2 large red eyes. They seemed to glow from within, and with a blood-red hue, they were unblinking in the 3 to 4 seconds we saw them. We knew they were looking straight at us. We knew this creature knew we could see it, and it made no attempt to disguise itself. The sick, intense, and overwhelming feeling of dread came over us. A feeling that we shouldn't be there was, to say the least, overwhelming. Then the bizarre flying humanoid creature suddenly flew off towards town as the friend fumbled with his cell phone trying to take pictures of it until it eventually faded away into the distance to leave the witnesses in a state of terrified confusion. Peels and his friend quickly vacated the area, and as soon as they got home, the 2 panicked men talked about what they had seen, trying to come to grips with what it had been and settling on the explanation that it must have been a large bird or optical illusion caused by the lights of the plant, although they both knew deep down that this was not the case. Because of the dark conditions at the time, none of the pictures the friend had tried to take turned out well. It was not until after he returned to the States that Peels would be reminded of the creature once again, when the same friend woke him in the middle of the night in March, frantically talking about the huge earthquake that had just struck the area where he lived, practically leveling the town he was in. Peels turned on the TV, and over the next few days was bombarded with images of the devastation that the earthquake and resulting tsunami had dealt out, including the meltdown of the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant, the area where he and his friend witnessed an encounter with the Mothman. But what about the Mothman sightings that don't appear moments before disaster? There have been claims of other creatures like the Mothman that terrorize people, specifically residents of the Ejido San Lorenzo, which corresponds to San Pedro, near Torreon in Mexico, assert that at night a strange and large being appears. The being is described as kind of a birdman, which measures between 1.80 and 2 meters, or around 6.5 feet, has no feathers but hair, and a half-human face. Through social media such as Facebook, the topic of Mothman has been gaining traction again. In various cities of Mexico, there have been sightings of a strange creature that terrifies and paralyzes whoever sees it, according to witnesses who claim to have seen it this year. They comment that the flapping of its wings is shocking, and that whoever gets to look him in the eye is paralyzed, and that their flight is not fast like a bird, but rather slow. Some of the stories go as follows. My brother and I saw that bird around 2 in the afternoon in Torreon, and that day we were working on the Pemex pipelines, and the truth is exactly as you describe it. That's how it was. We saw it, and I have never forgotten it. It is something impressive, nitrous, and we saw it flying at a height of 60 or 80 meters more. Hello, here in Hermosillo, it has also been seen. A policeman told me that some ranchers hunted down a man similar to the one described by the young man. Regards. We were going along the highway to Laredo, and in the middle of the lane, an animal was kicked. It was black, but it was tall, as if it were a man with wings, and it was not scared by the noise of the car. My husband had to brake. It looked at us. It took flight, and the car moved like when a trailer goes by and you feel the air from the trailer. Then it stopped on a stone and stared at us. This happened to us at 6 in the morning. There was sun, and by day we still remember it, and it gives us chills. Firefighters from the small town of Quilino in the province of Cordoba, Argentina, claim to have seen a strange phenomenon in the courtyard of their barracks. Firefighter Carlos Sanchez said in statements that it was a hooded individual who took the form of a bird and then escaped on all fours. A comrade saw an individual who was standing on Mariano Moreno Street in front of the barracks. The man was with his hands in his pockets and all dressed in black. He then approached the house and got into the background. We believed that he was about to steal, so with a partner, we went to see what was happening. We followed him and went into the patio, and that's when we saw him get down from a tree, take the form of a bird, and escape, said the witness. The Mothman has had several appearances over the years, some even as recent as this year, as 2018, as before that. The Mothman has had several appearances over the years, some in recent years, such as this year. The legacy of this creature will continue to haunt everyone who encounters him. Could the Mothman be an omen of great disaster, or perhaps a positive entity warning us of a terrible disaster that's about to happen? Let us know what you think in the comments down below, and as always, thanks for watching.